Hello, it's Scott Baker again, Precinct Chair, Precinct 23 in Montgomery County. I have another video here for you. I wanted to talk about some things that have been going on the last few years and put a little bit of history behind it and answer some questions about how things are going to proceed here and ask some questions as well that I think we should all be asking and open up for discussion and find out how people feel about this and let people know what's going on. The topic of this is right there at the top here. You see, why is Austin interfering in Montgomery County? And a lot of people may not even realize that this is what's going on, and yet it's unequivocally true. Austin, the Texas Republican Party, or the RPT, Republican Party of Texas, has indeed been interfering in Montgomery County and other counties across the state for the last years. And begs the question, why? What's the agenda? And do we really want that? So over the last 6 years, we've seen the RPT increasingly interfere with the Montgomery County Republican Party. Both the former and current chair of the RPT have decided to interfere in our Senate District caucus. The question is why? New state party rules, like Rule 44, entangle the state and county parties in new ways. These are brand new rules. I've covered them in my other videos about the Rule 44 censure that was attempted on our local elected officials. And it's been done across the state and a couple of other counties as well. And if you want to know more about that, you should go watch my other videos, and maybe I'll make some more in the future to talk about it. And I also want to talk about the ongoing effort to close the Republican Party primary. What does that really mean, and how will it affect us? And I want to talk about how it ties into this whole situation. So, a little bit of history here. In 2023, the chairman of the RPT called a separate meeting for the SD caucuses to meet and choose a temporary chairman for the SD conventions. This had never been done before. It sounds a little arcane, and it's a little bit of inside, baseball as far as the politics go, but the Senate District conventions, the SD conventions, are held in each Senate district across the state. And the duly elected county chair, Brian Christ, at the time, had already called a meeting for the SD caucuses. That was the usual way things were done. That's the way we've done it for decades, is that the county chair just calls it at a regular meeting, calls a special meeting afterward, and convenes the SD caucuses to caucus and choose their temporary chairman. The state chair in this situation announced that he would refuse to recognize any caucus called by the county chair. This was despite the fact there were no allegations that the county chair had done something wrong in the caucus meetings or by calling the caucus meetings. So the state chair decided unilaterally to take control of the SD caucuses to ensure that his people ran our local conventions. Doesn't sound very, for the people. But now the state chair is doing the same thing. The new state chair, RPT Chair Abraham George, has called for SD caucus meetings this August. Again, why doesn't the RPT chair trust the county chairs to hold a simple meeting without his input or control? Doesn't make any sense. What is the need here, unless it's to just arbitrarily insert himself into the process and make sure that he has control over the conventions? Where is the RPT chair chosen? At the conventions. Interesting. So, as I said before, another issue that has entangled us, the RPT rules like our Rule 44, the witch hunt rule, entangle the state and county parties in new ways. Entangle us legally. The MCRP chairman, Montgomery County Republican Party chairman Gwen Withrow, who's also our SREC rep, a member of the state party, and SREC representative Dale Inman, were very, very active and pushing for the censure of our local Montgomery County state reps. They had heavy support from the state party, from the RPT chair. I covered this in my other videos, but this was, if you read the language in their minutes and you listen to them talk about this, they again and again refer to getting input from the SREC, getting input from the state party. They very much have done this at the behest of and in partnership with the state party. It begs the question, why? The state and county parties are separate and distinct legal entities. Both are created separately by the Texas Election Code. Each has its own bylaws, officers, organization, bank accounts, and websites. We are not legally under the state party, but affiliated through the various conventions. Interesting that the state party feels the need now to step in and try and control the conventions at an even deeper level. Do we really need or want politicians in Austin picking our representatives for us? Why does our county chair want Austin to do that? These are questions we should be asking our county chair. Does she represent us, or does she represent interests in Austin? Interestingly enough, why is Austin fighting President Trump? In an interesting twist, while the RPT is sticking its nose in Montgomery County's business and other counties around the state, the RPT chairman is now asking President Trump to butt out of Texas races. In this article from the Texas Scorecard, the Texas Republican Party chairman Abraham George is sounding the alarm over potentially growing disconnect between the grassroots movement in Texas and operatives tied to President Donald Trump. Operatives tied to Donald Trump. In a recent interview with Chris Salcedo, George responded to recent reporting that the political arm of the Trump White House is attempting to interfere in internal Texas GOP matters. So he doesn't want Trump to do it in Texas, but he doesn't mind him doing it in our counties. Okay. Namely, he's opposing efforts to close Republican primaries and enforce Rule 44, the party's censure mechanism for office holders who defy the party platform. You see, President Trump has announced that he plans to endorse a lot of the candidates, the state reps, who have been backing his agenda in the state legislature. We just closed out one of the most conservative legislature sessions we've ever had. Donald Trump backed a lot of those candidates and is continuing to back them and has stated he wants to endorse them. The state party, though, wants to get rid of a lot of them, wants to actually block a bunch of them from the ballot. They don't even want to let you have a chance to vote on them. They want to remove them from the ballot and tell you who you get to vote for. Doesn't sound very Republican to me anymore. So what does this have to do with closed primary elections? The article said Donald Trump is opposing this, and the state party is pushing back. Interestingly enough, so is the Montgomery County Party chairman, Gwen Withrow, vice chair, John Boucher, and our SREC rep, Dale Inman, who's also a precinct chair, and several other people. There's been an ongoing effort to close the primary elections under the guise of keeping the Democrats out. That's the reason that's given. But what does it actually mean to close the primaries? Is that actually a good thing? Shouldn't we ask that question? Shouldn't we discuss that in detail and really understand what it looks like before we pull the trigger on that and before we close the primaries? What does it look like? On election day, how do you register to be a Republican? How much will it cost? How many Democrats are actually voting Republican? Does anyone know? Does anyone have data to back this up so that we can actually get a good number on it and understand what the real problem is, if it's a problem, and how do we solve that problem? All valid questions that I think should be up for discussion. We should have a public discussion about this. We should have public debates about them. So what does it mean to have closed primaries? Well, for one thing, someone's going to have to create and maintain a comprehensive list of Republicans throughout the state. That means hiring lots of staff to collect and manage that data. That sounds pretty expensive to me. The people behind this movement, local and state, are talking about vetting every registered Republican to determine who is fake and who is real. Who determines that? Will that process be transparent? Or will it be decided by a small group of inner circle elites, some political insiders in a closed room? It also sounds like even more staff and money. How long is it going to take to vet? What are the requirements? Is this just another way for the insiders and elites to seize control? Who exactly is a real Republican anyway? You know, we've already seen how these witch hunts go. Do you know who wouldn't pass the Republican purity test that's been touted as the vetting process? Recognize these guys? Ronald Reagan, former Democrat, one of the most popular Republican presidents ever. Donald Trump, our sitting president, who has supported Democrats in the past. who actually has some former Democrats in his cabinet right now. Would Donald Trump pass the test to be a Republican primary voter in the state of Texas under the RPT's new closed primary system? I don't think he would. I think a lot of other people would be kicked off the ballot too. Kicked off the ballot or kicked out of the primaries and wouldn't even be allowed to vote, and you wouldn't be allowed to vote for them. It begs the question, do we really need closed primary elections? Now, I understand the desire to make sure that people aren't infiltrating our elections, and we don't want a bunch of Democrats crossing over and voting and choosing our candidates for us. I get that. But the question is it really happening? We've heard mention of secret plans by the Democrats to do so. But at the end of the day, Republicans are winning elections, and Republicans are getting Republican bills passed. How many people are actually impacted by this? What happens on election day? How many people are going to show up to vote and be turned away? How much chaos is this going to add to our elections? We already struggle to get good turnout in primary elections. Heck, sometimes we struggle to get voters registered properly just as voters. Now we're going to add a second registration on top of that and say not only do you have to register to be a voter to vote, but you also have to register to be a Republican. And now we're going to double the checks that we already do in the primary election as workers, sitting there running the election, sitting there as clerks and workers that we have to check. And now we've got to check two databases. We've got to check to make sure you're registered, and we have to check to make sure you're a Republican. That's going to make things easier? How will closed primaries fix this issue at all? It took Dr. Wally Wilkerson, our former county chair, 50 plus years to turn Montgomery County into a Republican county. And not just a Republican county, a Republican stronghold with 75% majorities on average. We win elections in landslides in Montgomery County with Republicans. We did that with open primaries. We did it by welcoming people into the party, asking them to be a part of the Republican Party. Not by closing the door in their face and saying, you can't come in because we don't think you're a real Republican. But that's the proposition that we face now. To close the primaries, close the door, and we have no idea what that will look like. Why do we need to close the doors now? I think I might make another video about the closed primaries and put some more information out there, but I really want to ask these questions and bring them up because it all ties together. It sure seems like the state party, and some people in the local party too, are very anxious to interfere in Montgomery County's elections, to interfere with the Republican Party and choose our candidates for us. What is the real reason for closing the primaries? Is it just what they say on the face of it, that it's just to keep Democrats out? And is that a problem? Do we really want or need party insiders and political elites to pick our candidates for us? I say let the voters decide. Let's do what's working now. We have a Republican state right now with open primaries. We have Republican majorities in the legislature. In Montgomery County, we have a dominating Republican majority. I think we ought to just keep the Republican Party the party of the people, by the people, and for the people, just like Lincoln wanted. I think that's what it means to be a Republican, and I think that we should stand by that. And maybe let's not fix what really isn't broken now. I appreciate you watching my video. I want to say thank you. Thank you for taking the time. I hope you'll like and comment below and let me know how you feel about it. And I hope this will start a discussion, a real discourse in the public about what it means and how we should proceed. Because ultimately, the people are who should decide. In my opinion, anyway. What's yours? Thank you. God bless you. God bless the United States of America, and God bless Texas.